So with Halo Infinite being only a little over 2 months away from release, I thought that I would talk today a bit more about The Banished, because there are pieces of information that we have recently received that lead me to believe that the Banished are a much more established empire, and they pose a serious threat not just to the UNSC, but to the entire galaxy, whether you are human or not. So get your grapple hooks ready, reload your BR,
and get set for a combat drop.
I think the best place to start is the chronological beginning. So in Halo Wars 2, we were given a really nice overview on how the Banished came to be. Atriox and his brutes were sent on suicide runs constantly against humanity, and this fostered actually a lot of hatred between the brutes and the Covenant. So Atriox ended up actually betraying the Covenant. But what made things even worse for the Covenant was that he inspired other brutes towards rebellion as well, and his brothers joined him in destroying the Covenant and the Executioner, who was the elite in charge of their forces. So after overthrowing them, they then began to set up their own faction. However, this would take time to set up, because what Atriox needed was manpower, technology, and resources. He understood that if he was going to have any chance of taking on the Covenant, he needed to have the ability and the resources to actually fight them. So at first, he was more of a pirate and a raider, but he continued to attract mercenaries and warriors to his cause. So even though he had a very small empire, it was extremely well run, because Isabel states at the height of the Covenant's power, they couldn't even contain him. So my interpretation in all of that is that these brutes were actually able to defeat multiple elite shipmasters and captains in space battles, not just on the ground. Now, I do say all of this, but there are a couple of small facts that we just don't know. We don't know how many forces the Covenant sent towards the Banished, because they were fighting 2 separate wars. But we can assume that towards the end of the Human Covenant War, with the discovery of the Halo Rings, their main priority would be to fight humanity to get control of the Halo Rings, because of their beliefs in the Great Journey. Now, as we all know, this great journey didn't end up going so well. So with the defeat of the Covenant, the Banished were able to swoop in and take control of a huge amount of resources, manpower, and territory. The second thing that we just don't know is when all of this actually happened, because we don't have a series of dates. All we really know is that in 2559, Atriox and the Banished took control of the Ark, and about 6 months later is when the UNSC Spirit of Fire showed up, and that's when the events of Halo Wars 2 began. So it's not really clear if Atriox was building up all of his forces and growing his faction over a long period of time, or if it was a short period of time. It's hard to say, but I mean, there is definitely some potential for some storytelling and some stuff that 343 could definitely put into Halo Infinite. But let's get on to the serious information. So not too long ago, Halo Waypoint had a really nice article about the art of Halo Infinite. This was mostly promoting the art book itself, but it did go into a pretty nice amount of detail, and also gave us about 60 odd images in a 4K zip file, and I gotta say, every single one of these images is just ridiculously well done. It is so goddamn cool to see something that's just so true to the Halo universe, and it's really refreshing to see a whole lot of artwork just being dumped on us. It's very nice, I gotta say. But we were really lucky, because we managed to actually get this bad boy over here, which seems to be ripped directly from the art book, and also manages to come with a really nice description. This description reads as follows: another important feature is the hangar and cargo area in the middle of the ship. This is where all of the drop pods are located, ready for invasion. That quote is really nice, and it really does give a good feel for the artwork, but the key word in all of that was invasion. That everything is ready and set up, basically just ready to go, almost. You know, it's pretty crazy, but it sounds as if, from this, that the Banished are preparing to conquer a large amount of the galaxy. And this is something that I noticed from the artwork itself, but you'll notice that all of the Banished structures and buildings all look the exact same. They have a really cool, very brutish and very simple and menacing design, but you'll notice that all of these bases and buildings literally look as if they are copied and pasted, and some people who aren't Halo fans or people who don't like where Halo is going, they may want to say, hey, that's just laziness on 343 and the developers and the artists and whatnot, but I honestly don't think that's the case. I truly do believe that they are trying to create a separate layer to the Banished by doing it this way. They're trying to create the impression that the Banished have all of these basically buildings that are already on their ship that they just drop into place like Lego blocks. That way they can very quickly establish and conquer and create a forward operating base that they can then continue to kind of leapfrog off of. And this allows them to get control of an area really quickly, which would help to explain why they have been able to so quickly and suddenly gain a whole lot of power and control and influence over certain areas of the galaxy. Look, I say that, but that is my headcanon for all of this. That's my personal explanation for what I think is going on. From a business perspective, you have to remember that 343 has now finally got a opponent that we all as a community collectively really enjoy fighting. The Prometheans were a bit of a mixed bag between the community. Some people loved them, some people hated them. And having the Banished there, it's a refreshing change of pace because now, generally, everyone seems to really love fighting them. So obviously they want to try and write them into the story a bit more, make them seem a bit more of a threat. So this really makes sense from multiple angles as far as I see it. Moving on from that though, I did want to focus on this particular piece of artwork for a fair bit because I really like it. It is basically what looks like a Banished scrapyard from just a war-torn battlefield. So this is very different from your typical set of brutes. Reason for that is that most brutes mostly seem to be grab a marine, smash, 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 okay, we're done here. The impression that I get from this is that they are trying to almost reverse engineer UNSC technology. I mean, if they were just fully focused on conquest and taking over our territory, then they wouldn't really want to sift through all of our debris and all of our destroyed ships and weapons and things like that. So the impression I get is that they are trying to take our technology, learn from it, and then put their own spin on it. And that's why I think things like the scrap cannon comes from. We saw this piece of concept art a fair few months ago now, but I just love the idea that it looks as if a bunch of brutes had seen the saw and said, what if we did that, but bigger and sharper? So yeah, I do really love the idea of that. I mean, the Covenant themselves, they never really tried to get anything from our technology. The only thing they wanted was our navigational systems to be able to track home to Earth and destroy us all. That was the only reason the Covenant went through our stuff ever. And depending on how far into the lore you want to go, then you start talking about things like the Cole Protocol and stuff like that. So do I have any proof or evidence of all of this? Well, yeah, right here. As the Chief grapple hooks into this next section of what looks like a Banished ship, you can see a whole lot of debris and a whole lot of stuff that looks like they are sifting through the remains of a battle. And yeah, at what point of the story this is, I have no idea. Everyone has their best guess, but either way, to circle back to the main point of this video, I think that this does kind of really confirm that the Banished have set themselves up as a conquering empire, and that they are the next new rising power in the galaxy. I honestly don't think that they will be defeated in Halo Infinite. I think that the Chief will basically take the legs out from under Atriox, and he'll kill all of his leadership and all of his members of the Hand of Atriox, but I think Atriox himself will still be around, because the Banished are 343's new golden egg. They don't want to kill him off and wrap things up in a nice neat bow tie when they have just found this new vein of untapped Halo potential. And if Halo's going to come back and become a very popular game, and from what everything is being marketed and built up to us for, honestly, I just can't see it being handled in one game. I did talk about the potential for future campaign DLC as well in a previous video, so yeah, there is always that side of things as well. But I think that's probably a fair point to call it for today. So let me know what you all think about all of this in the comments section down below. Do you think that the Banished are really powerful? Do you think that we will defeat them in Halo Infinite completely? Or do you think, like I do, that we're not going to finish them all off completely? So let me know what you all think, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and that way we can hit 1K before Halo Infinite drops. We are getting closer and closer every day, guys. Let's keep it going, and let's try and hit that sub goal, eh? But yeah, I've been Kiv, and I guess I'll see you all on the next one.